One of the reasons I decided to homeschool my children was basically because I know my children best. And the education that was being provided for my children, quite frankly, I didn't feel was suitable for my children. And so I took it to the Lord in prayer. I asked Him to make a way for me to homeschool my children. Um, it took many nights of prayer talking to God about it first. And I waited for God to make things clear for me, to show me a way that I could homeschool my children. Now, if I'm being honest, everything was there for me. And if the truth be told, I didn't feel confident enough in teaching my own children. And this is very typical of parents out there who don't think that they have what it takes to teach their children as well as raising their children. But let me tell you what the Lord led me to realize and the revelation that He gave me while on this journey. I prayed to the Lord about it, and He made a way. Glory to God. He made a way. He made a series of events occur that made it easy for me to remove my children from the education system. And it was from that point that basically, God led me in everything that we did. He totally led the direction in which we were to teach our children. I consulted God about everything, even down to what subjects I should teach them. Sat and had conversations with my children about the things that they wanted to learn. I got to play around a bit and, basically see what their strengths and weaknesses were. And the school had failed them. My story was that the school had failed my children quite terribly. And, God gave me the confidence to basically undo what they had done and literally start again with Him as the leading authority. And so He led the way totally in everything, down to the books I use, down to what things I teach them. God has been good. And I think the common misconception out there for parents is that, oh my goodness, where do I start? How am I going to be able to teach my children? I can't possibly teach them X, Y, and Z. But let me tell you something. You know your children. You know your children better than any teacher ever could. Yes, the teacher spends a certain amount of hours per day with your child if your child is in school. But ultimately, you know your children better. And I think we've gotten so used to this system raising our children. I'm going to be honest here. I think we've just become so blatantly honest with a system that raises our children. A system where our children are there from morning through till late in the afternoon. And when they come home, you get basically the crumbs. You get to ask how your children did in school without really fully knowing how they actually did in school. And, you're the parent that gets to help them with their homework rather than being there through the whole entire process. Now, I'm not knocking anybody whose children has to be in school. I understand that there are situations where, you have to work. Maybe you're a single parent, you have to work, or both parents have to work, to make ends meet. That's just how it is. But it's something that I urge you to, if it's something that you've thought about or something that, during this time of lockdown that you are considering, but don't feel like you have the resources, don't feel like you're able to teach your children, you are more than capable. With God, all things are possible. Your children are your inheritance from the Lord. Amen. They are your blessings, and you can have every say in what they learn and in the direction that they learn it. Like I said, you know your children better than any teacher ever could. And another thing I want you to realize is that from the very beginning, you have been the one to teach your child. You taught your child to walk. You taught your child to talk. You know, walk, talk. You know, you taught them how to get dressed, how to brush their teeth, how to eat. You know, all these things, you have been doing it from the very beginning. When you look back and you reflect on how you raised your children, you know, from the very beginning, it's been all about learning. You have done that. You have taught your children all these basic things in life. You were the person that gave your child that platform to learn. So you are more than capable. And I know it might be a scary road to even think about. Believe me, at the beginning I was like, whoa, you know, I'm not sure. But like I said, with my eldest daughter, I'd actually homeschooled her for about a year. This is many years ago, when she's 24, my eldest daughter was 24, and I actually homeschooled her for an entire year. So, and so I had to think back to what I did all those years ago. And I also come from a childcare background. For some of you that don't know, I actually used to teach children. That's the background I come from. I used to teach children in schools, and I used to be a nursery manager, and I've taught children in Montessori nurseries. So my background is childcare from day one. However, when it's your own children, it's completely different. But the skills, I took those skills from my years and knowledge of studying childcare, and working with childcare, and I used that and simply just placed it at home. Now I know a lot of us might not have that that type of background. You might even come from a background of banking. You might come from a background of, I don't know, labouring of some sort. You might come from a background of, I don't know, working in a supermarket. Whatever it is your job is, you have the necessary skills to, apart from it being your child or your children, you have the necessary skills that you can transfer into the home. You know, I know people that have worked, you know, as a key worker position, and they're transferring that skill now into teaching their children. I've known people who've worked in a bank and then decided to homeschool their children, and so their area of expertise is obviously maths, and so their strong point is teaching their children how to do maths. So take all those skills that you've got and just place them at home. It's honestly, it's really that simple. And always, always ask God to lead you in everything that you do. Consult God. I promise you, God will lead you in everything. He's led us completely, and you know, it's gone really well. I enjoy homeschooling, and that brings me on to another point. I find it sad sometimes during this time of lockdown, where I hear parents saying that, oh, they can't wait for their children to go back to school, you know, as if they've totally missed it. You know, we're on lockdown. We've been on lockdown for quite some time. And this should be a time of getting to know your children all over again. You know, getting to know your children, getting to know their strengths and weaknesses, getting to know where they're at. And for them to get to know you again, because quite frankly, when they're at school, most of their life is spent in school with their teachers. And sometimes, I'm going to be honest here, sometimes the teachers end up knowing your child better than you do, because they're spending the majority of the time with your child. And I just think it's sad when I hear parents say, oh, I can't wait till they get back to school, because you're totally missing that precious time that it's been given to you to know your kids all over again. And it is the homeschooling journey, I appreciate it's not for everyone. So this video is for those that are thinking about it, have even thought about it in the past and didn't think that they could do it. And for those that have, you know, have been thinking, well, I'm not sure if I want to homeschool, I'm not sure if it's right for us, use this time as a time to, you know, give it a trial run. Use this time to trial run um, ways of teaching them. There's so much online resources, there's so much online things from maths, English. There's so many apps that are available out there for, you know, if your children are just starting to learn to read. There are apps such as Reading Eggs, and Reading World, and all types of other um, apps you can use to help your children read. You can get all sorts of resources on eBay and Amazon. Doesn't even have to cost a fortune. It really doesn't. Um, you know, you can get books in charity shops as soon as they're open back up. You can go online, you know, on Amazon. They have used books that you can buy for like £1, or, you know, a few pennies even, if you're not bothered about how new the books are. And, you know, you can bulk buy a majority of books, paper, plain paper to write on. So, you know, it just depends. You have to obviously look around for the bargains, and you have to look around for prices and compare them. But, you know, it's as simple as you want to make it. That's the way it has been for me. The Lord has led us, myself and my husband, you know, every step of the way. And if there's something that they've struggled on, God has stepped in. You know, if there's something that I've struggled on, you know, I've gone away, done my research on a subject, and then come back, and with God's help, I've taught it to them. And we've made so much memories. You know, there's that aspect of homeschooling as well. You make so much memories because you've got the freedom to teach them how you want to teach them in a way that's suitable for their amplitude and, you know, their style of learning, because there's different styles of learning. And I find that when children are at school, it's usually a one glove fits all type of approach to learning. Whereas with homeschool, you can, you get to know you know your child individually, and you can teach them according to their strengths and their weaknesses. You know, for example, I've got a son that loves science, you know, and so he only just, when he was in school, he hated science. He absolutely hated it. But now, since he's been homeschooled, he's discovered that he loves it. And why has he discovered suddenly that he loves it? It's the way that he's been taught, you know. And, you know, we learn biblical science, you know, because I'm a believer. So everything that we learn is centered around God. It's God focused, and everything, you know, springs from that. Even down to, you know, maths. We can look at, you know, Noah's Ark and the measurements, dividing it, timesing it, all that type of stuff. Old fashioned numerical values, and you know, style of English in the King James Bible. We'll take a look at the style that it was written in, where did that type of English come from, etc., etc. So there's so many things, and God has been the center of it all. Now, do I know everything? Of course not. Of course not. But God knows everything, and that's the beauty of it. So we totally rely on God to lead us in this homeschooling journey. I want to share some scriptures with you. Now, Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way that he should go, so that even when he is old, he will not depart from it. And I think this is so important, because we see out there, I was talking to my sister this morning about this very same, very same topic, about the lack of certain skills and teachings in the school, and the fact that a lot of parents, you know, are finding themselves working so hard that they're too tired to teach their children life skills, you know, how to pay bills, how to wash their clothes, how to, you know, what a bank account is, you know, how to, you know, put their clothes in the washing machine. And, you know, if you're a person of color, learning about, you know, black kings and queens, and, you know, black history. You know, I'm just going to throw it out there. You know, there's a lot, you know, if you're a person of color, a lot of people of color are not teaching their children certain types of history that I feel is important. Um, I feel as a black person, for me personally, when I was in school, for example, I wasn't taught black history at all. In fact, the only type of black history I was taught was about slavery, and beyond that, it didn't go anywhere. And, you know, now I've got that freedom to teach my children black history, and they're loving it. You know, we learn all types of history, but included in that is also black history, which they didn't get taught at school. And they're finding it so interesting. And you can, again, you can link that to that's linked to the Bible as well. Um, Things, like I said, life skills that you don't learn, and parents are getting so tired because they're working so hard that they don't get to teach their children these things. And so when children grow up, the Bible says train them up in the ways that they should grow, so when they're old they won't depart from it. Because children are lacking in these certain skills, when they grow up and it's time for them to go out into the world, they haven't a clue. They haven't a clue because they haven't been taught that at home. And these are some of the things that you can teach your children when they're being homeschooled. And I'm not saying you can't teach your children this when they're in school, because you can teach them in addition to them being at school, granted. However, a lot of parents, if we're being totally honest, are too tired to even start with that. And so, you know, that's another aspect of homeschooling as well. It isn't just all about academic work, it's also about learning life skills as well. And it's brilliant. And it's also about, like I said before, spending time with your children, making memories, because childhood does not last forever. It's a beautiful time. It doesn't last forever, and it's a time where you can go out when the weather's nice. You can go out and, you know, learn about nature, learn about God's creation, learn about life. You can go out for walks, and, you know, have nice conversations with your children, you know, get them into a relaxed feeling, and then, you know, then take on board academic work. You know, there's so many different things that you can do. You can play around with it. You know, you don't have to stick to a set curriculum either. You know, you can research different types of methods of teaching your children, different types of curriculums. Um, and, you know, you see what's suitable for your child. Ultimately, sorry, you know your child, your children even. And so I just wanted to share, you know, my aspect of homeschooling and how it's been for me. Now, like I said, I've totally enjoyed it. You know, my only regret is that I didn't do it from day one, you know. Um, but it's never too late. When God leads you into something, he will never leave you nor forsake you. And, you know, he definitely has been with us from the very beginning and all the way through. And he totally leads my family into everything that we learn. And my children have even, you know, we've had conversations, and, you know, my children have said to me things like, Mum, you know, we really love spending time with you. You know, we prefer being homeschooled because we feel more relaxed. We don't feel pressured. And this is their words. They don't feel restricted. You know, they feel like if they're having a bad day, they can say, I can say to them, right, let's just give it a rest for today, and let's continue in the afternoon, or let's continue tomorrow. Let's do something creative, and we'll put that on hold till tomorrow, and we'll return back to it tomorrow. So they're liking the freedom, which allows them to learn even more. And also, there's been so many things that they've wanted to learn that isn't being taught in school, and they've wanted to learn things, and they've come to me and said, Mum, for example, I want to learn about, you know, the kings of the Bible. I want to learn about, you know, I want to learn about how to cook a vegetarian meal. Mum, I want to learn how do how do how does a computer work? Like if I pull it apart, I want to learn about how you could make a computer. And I'm like, okay, cool, let's look into that. If I don't know something, I'll research it and then we'll do it as a project. So they've had the freedom to do the type of topics that they want to learn about, and we've researched it and we've had so much fun with that. Also, another aspect is that I want this to also be a time where you seriously consider, if you're able, and I want you to pray about this, consider homeschooling your children after lockdown. Because when we think about the type of things that children are now learning in schools, you know, they're learning all sorts of things that are, you know, antichrist. I'm just going to be blunt with it. All types of doctrines that are antichrist. And you really have to consider what you want your children's ear gates to be taking in. What do you want your children's eye gates to be taking in? And what do you want your children's mouth gates to be putting out? Because, you know, the system is planting seeds in your children's minds, and your children are absorbing these things. Childhood is a time of absorbing. They're like sponges. Children are like sponges. They absorb information. And the schools are teaching such antichrist doctrines that go against the word of God. And you really have to consider these things. So I've got my daughter with me. Yeah, so, you know, they're absorbing so much antichrist doctrines. And I, for one, as a parent, was very uncomfortable with that myself. And so it's another reason that I'm so happy to be homeschooling my children, because ultimately I'm in control of what they're taking in. And, you know, I hear such stories about the things that, you know, they're being exposed to in the school system, and the things that children are coming home and learning about and being exposed to. You know, it doesn't sit well with me at all, if I'm being honest. And so, you know, children are precious. Children are precious, and we need to, you know, during this time of lockdown, if you are considering homeschooling your children, it is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, it is the best thing that you could possibly decide to do. And I just pray that during this time of you being forced to teach your children, that it gives you something to consider. I pray that it encourages you, you know, more than anything. Like I said, you know, we have good days, you know, we have not so good days. You know, we have days where sometimes they might not be in the mood for learning, you know, and then some days we're just like, boom, full at it, you know, full at it on top of work. But, you know, that's as with anything in life. You have good days, you have not so good days. And, you know, that's just how it is. And if you can accept that, you know, then you'll be absolutely, you know, equipped to dealing with those days and those times when they come up. And, you know, God is with you. You know, if you choose to do this and you let him be the focus of your home, your family, and the way in which you teach them, God will never leave you. He will never leave you, and he'll lead you in everything that you know, in the direction that you're teaching your children. So on that note, I just pray that this video has encouraged you. I pray that there were something that you could get out of this video. This was my personal revelation and the journey that I've been on with my children. Ultimately, it's your child's journey, but ultimately it is your journey also, because there's so many things that you can learn with your children. There's so many things that I've learned with my children. Are you having a good time being homeschooled? You having a good time?
Yeah.
What do you like most about being homeschooled? What's your favourite thing?
Handwriting.
Handwriting. She loves handwriting, so that's her thing. And you love cooking as well, don't you?
Yeah.
You do a lot of cooking with Dad, don't you? Yeah. What's your favourite thing to cook?
Pancakes.
Pancakes. Yeah. So yeah, so there's a lot of things that she's been learning, and you know, she's picked up, um and that we've been able to do with her and my other children. So I pray that it's something that you definitely want to, you know, pursue after lockdown is finished. But most of all, please enjoy this time with your children, because you're never going to get this back. This time is precious. Everyone's at home now. They're having to be with their children. And I just pray that you're getting out that Bible, you're having those Bible studies with your children, you're reading those Bible stories, you're doing lots of creative stuff, you know. And I just pray that this video encourages you. So may the Lord bless you and guide you. And God willing, I'll make another video. And remember, Jesus is the light of this world. God bless you. You say bye?
Bye.
It says this: our God is awesome. He can move mountains. Keep me in the valley